part 7 of the dating series I have been doing. So if you missed the first 6 episodes, feel free to pause right here and catch yourself up. So this series was inspired by the book Intentional Relationships for Singles, written by Chris Suetocho and Dan Hoke. I've mentioned it several times, and the link is in the description. There's an affiliate link in the description. And it brings a very countercultural approach to friendships and dating as we know it. So it's quite refreshing, as I've mentioned previously. So just a quick recap. The modern or Western approach to dating is all topsy-turvy, backwards. It goes from strangers to acquaintances to dating to friendship, then many times to breakup, or it might lead to marriage and then later on down the road to divorce. Okay, so we're conditioned to become emotionally and psychologically involved with pretty much a stranger before actually getting to know them. And then when things don't work out down the road, we wonder why they're not working out once we see their true colors. So this cycle doesn't work because intimacy and the time invested in the relationship are high before true friendship develops. So if the friendship doesn't work, the pain is difficult because of the level of intimacy and the time that was invested. Another problem with dating someone you've just met simply based on attraction is that you don't know anything about their character, their personality, their passions, their life goals, their convictions. So you get so close too soon, especially emotionally, and this leads to making decisions about that person, such as dating them or marrying them, without a firm foundation of their character. And then when it doesn't work out, you're left discouraged and disillusioned. So the proper dating model should be strangers to acquaintances to friendship, and then intentional friendship to dating and engagement and marriage. So intentional friendship is when you get to know someone as a friend and you get to see how they do life, how they spend their time, spend their money, treat people around them, their church attendance, their commitments, their priorities, and whether they spend time with God, how they handle conflict, and you get to know them on a friendship level. So this is a very safe, neutral zone, no commitment. It doesn't have to end up in a relationship, and you could just remain friends. Okay, so this is like leading up to dating with a purpose. In the last few episodes, I've been talking about building an intentional friendship, looking for red, yellow, and green flags before starting a dating relationship. So let's suppose you made it past the intentional friendship. Now you are ready to move on to the next stage. And so the intentional friendship is just a time between a general friendship and dating somebody. And now you are in the dating phase. Okay, so you have mostly green flags, maybe a few, 1 or 2 yellow flags, and you shouldn't have red flags at this point. So in the last episode, I talked about what dating isn't. And just a quick recap, dating is not a time to be with somebody simply because you're lonely. Dating is not blind trust. It's not having poor boundaries, ignoring red flags, or expecting perfection. So I mentioned other things, what dating isn't, in the previous episode. So in this episode, I will be talking about what dating is. Dating is allowing you to learn more about each other at a deeper level. This is where you're building relational and emotional intimacy. Okay, so not physical, you're not married yet, but you are past the platonic phase, and now you asking the deeper questions and really trying to unfold this person. And there isn't a timeline of how long you can date or how long you should date, but it is important that you have meaningful conversations during this season. Dating is also about building commitment. You are beginning to rely more on each other, spending more time and making plans together and being there for each other. You're dating somebody who has mostly green flags. So this is somebody that you feel is ready to be in a more serious relationship. Dating is when you're learning how to take care of another person's need. So it's not just about you anymore. You're learning to serve this other person you're with. You're not just a taker, you're also a giver. So the Bible tells us it is better to give than to receive. And that's in every aspect, whether it's time, spending time with the person you love, or attention, giving attention, gifts, etc. There's so many things that you could consider as far as giving and taking care of another person's needs. You're also building trust. So dating is a time where you're building that trust, that foundation. So building trust in the relationship early on is so important because you're kind of creating the reference points. You're setting those landmarks, and you want to build trust with somebody, and you want to be trusted. And so it's important that you are honest and from the get-go, and because down the road those landmarks or those reference points are going to come back, or the person is going to always remember whether they could trust you or they couldn't trust you earlier on in the relationship. So it is important that you take trust seriously. Dating is practicing forgiveness. You're gonna hurt the other person, they're gonna hurt you, and you're just gonna have to learn to move on. Hurts are gonna happen, so you're working past them. Give forgiveness, receive forgiveness. That is so important so you can heal and move on. Dating is also about developing boundaries. Space and physical boundaries are still important, even if you're spending more time with this person. And you're doing more things together, talking more. You still need to respect those boundaries and give them space, and especially the physical boundaries. So you're still not married, so you make sure you don't cross those lines. Dating is about helping you discover how well you relate together as a couple. Do you communicate well? Do you get along? Do you build each other up? Do you work well together? Are you always fighting or arguing? Those are things that you are still considering while you're in this season. Dating is an opportunity to meet family members. So you are starting to invite this person into your family, and they're inviting you into theirs. So you're meeting their siblings and parents and extended family and church families and all of that. So during this dating stage, so your family is also growing. And if it does become serious, they are going to be your family one day. Okay. Dating is moving towards a vision of your future, possibly marriage and family. So this is kind of like what you have in mind throughout this process. Could I spend my life with this person? Could I build a family with this person, a marriage with this person? And if you find yourself hesitating, or if there are any doubts, it's probably time to go back to the drawing board and reconsider some things, and maybe pause or take a break, because you don't want to continue this relationship if you have any doubt that you wouldn't want to build a family with this person. Dating is a time where you determine if it's going to go towards marriage or not. Okay, so you need to be honest wherever you are in the relationship. And I think that's probably the hardest thing that people have to do, is just come to terms with a relationship that's not working out, because they don't want to be alone, and they have their own insecurities and unresolved trauma issues, or codependency issues. So they're trying to hold on to something that's not working. But if it's not working, be honest, because the best thing you can do is get out of that person's way, or have them get out of your way, so they can make room, or you can make room for the person that you would be equally yoked with, or you'd be better matched with. Dating is learning about yourself so you can be healthier and make necessary changes, personal growth. So you are not there yet. We all haven't arrived, and that's gonna be the case until we die. But we should always be growing and changing. Still in this dating phase, you're learning about yourself. And because, when you've been single for a while, you haven't been in a relationship, you kind of get stuck in your ways. But then once you invite somebody in your life, you realize, how to compromise and just a little bit more about your personality. So you are changing and growing, and just taking care of yourself is important. Growing intellectually, growing emotionally, relationally, and physically, taking care of your body, all of those things are very important. And then the last one I have for you, but I'm sure there could be more that could be added, is dating is about maintaining exclusivity and loyalty to the person you are dating. So you shouldn't be talking to other people at this point or trying to date other people. So this is it. Just one person in your life who you are giving your attention. If you find yourself still considering dating other people, talking to other people, then you probably shouldn't continue with this dating relationship. Do the other person a favor. Just get out of their lives, okay? Because they are better off with somebody who's going to be serious about being in an exclusive relationship with them. So to each your own, but this is a time where you have pretty much isolated that one person. Now, if it doesn't work out, that's fine, and then you'll move on down the road and you'll be exclusive with somebody else, but you can't be double dipping and be in multiple relationships at the same time. Okay, that doesn't end very well. All right, so those are just some aspects of what dating is. I would love to hear what you have to say. Share your dating experience if you are married, or if you have dated in the past. Maybe you're not married, but you have dated in the past, and whether it worked out or whether it didn't work out, or even if you're engaged. I'd love to hear what you could add to this list, what dating is. Okay, even what dating isn't, from the previous episode. I mentioned this scripture in a previous episode, but it is so important that we, obey God's word, because he said it to protect us, and so that we can live the life that he has called us to live and bring him glory in our relationships. But it says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness, or what fellowship has light with darkness? So yes, it is important that we're not yoked with unbelievers, but even if both of you are believers, it is important that you're still equally yoked. Make sure you're on the same level intellectually, emotionally, relationally, socially, that you are equally yoked. Because if you're not, you're gonna go around in circles. So you might both be saved, love Jesus, but it is important that you are equally yoked, so you are effective as a couple and you're doing God's work and taking care of kingdom business. So I don't have much personal experience in this area. Of course, a lot of this comes from reading. I've read a lot of books on singleness, dating, and all of that, but it's not something that I have had a real life experience in. So I am curious, once I do get to that season in my life, how I am going to apply a lot of these truths and a lot of this information. But if you are out there, like I said, I'd love to hear your experiences as far as dating and your process, your story, even timelines. Share timelines from the time you first met the person you're dating or married to until you decided to get married, and just a whole process. So you can email me at thewaitingroom@gmail.com, or you can leave me a message on my website, or you can follow me on Instagram at The Waiting Room and leave me a comment there. So all the links are in the description below. You can pick whatever you prefer. So I highly encourage you to read the book Intentional Relationships. I've referenced it a lot lately, but it's such a good book. It's a good workbook, and pick up a copy, work your way through it, and then if you're single now, read it, and then when you start dating, pick it up again and read it with your significant other in that season. There's a bunch of questions at the end. There's like over 600 questions that you can ask each other to have a deeper relationship, to get to know that person a little bit more before you decide whether you want to spend your rest of your life with them. There is an affiliate link in the description below, so you can purchase it through the Thrift Books. And that is it for today's episode, folks. Thank you for joining me here in the waiting room. Tune back in my next episode. In the meantime, I need your help getting this podcast to as many listeners as possible. So please share it with a friend or anyone you think would like to listen. And I'd love to hear your feedback once again. So you can click on the links in the description to share your feedback or your comments or questions. I will be answering those on my Instagram. Until then, take care.